Fab Poli here, and welcome back to another episode of Living Outside the Cube. And today, before we launch into our interview with our special guest, I'd like to talk a little bit about the cube, because you keep hearing me say living outside the cube, and you're probably wondering, why is Fab using this word, the cube? Well, I believe today that society is shut in a cube. I mean, you launch yourself today on social media or even switch the TV on, and you really are not allowed to have an original thought. If you express an opinion, you're often attacked. You're often accused of being a racist or being a Nazi and all sorts of things. And so it's really, we are in a society today where it's getting more and more difficult to express your own opinion. And so this whole concept of free speech is almost going out the window. And I think this is very, very sad, because I think we really need to celebrate our differences and allow other people to have an opinion that may be against what we think and that. But, you know, everybody should be free to think what they want to think. Well, the cube has 6 sides, as we know. Each side represents something. The first side is A, meaning atmosphere. Okay? And atmosphere means the people around you. How do the people around you, how does the environment around you influence you? We've recently seen this new science of epigenetics, where they talk about, they once upon a time, it was, it's in your genes, it's your genes, you are the way you are because of your parents. But then they soon discovered that if you take a set of twins and you put them in 2 different environments, guess what? They may turn out very different, because the environment can influence you and make a difference, make you become different in your life. So atmosphere is important. Then we go on to the second side of the cube, which is cash, meaning money. How does money influence the way you think? Do you think, or have you been brought up to think that money is a bad thing and that people that have a lot of money are evil? Or have you been brought up to be an entrepreneur and think that money is positive and that with a lot of money you can do a lot of good in the world? Well, that's really up to you. What's your thinking regarding the cash side of the cube? And then we go into tuition. Tuition meaning education. The schools you went to, universities you went to. Did those schools, did that university, those courses that you did they prepare you for the real world, today's world, tomorrow's world, or did they prepare you for a world of yesterday? And then we go into the next side of the cube, which is information, the media. Where do you get your information from? What newspapers do you read? What websites do you go on? Where are you getting your information from? What about fake news? There's a lot of talk about fake news, alternative news these days. Where are you getting your information from? And is that information serving you to become a better person? And then we go into the O. The O stands for optimism, meaning your mind, your mindset, your attitude. What's your view of the world? Are you one of these people that's, no matter what, I'm going to do it? You believe in yourself? I mean, what's the status of your optimism? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What's your mindset? What's your attitude towards life? And then we go into the last side of the cube, the N, nutrition, meaning your health, meaning your fitness. Is the food you eat actually fueling your body? Is it giving your body energy, or is it causing your body to have a disease and illness, to not feel good, to be unhealthy? And you'll notice that, the words ACTION actually spell the word action. And the word action can be split into 2. Act, meaning atmosphere, cash and tuition. Act is basically movement. And then ION, iron, meaning information, meaning optimism, nutrition, iron meaning energy. So energy and movement, the word action. But interestingly enough, these sides of the cube, you've got the atmosphere, you've got cash, you've got tuition, you've got information, and you've got nutrition. These 5 sides of the cube actually work from the outside to the inside. There's only one side of the cube that when you press it, when you act upon it, it opens up. And that's the optimism, your mind, your mindset, your attitude. If you press upon that attitude, if you think to yourself, what can I do to make a difference? How can I improve this situation? What can I learn from this mistake? How can I take this learning experience and invest it into my future? This is where your mind needs to be. You need to be optimistic. You need to see the glass half full and not half empty. But in order to do this, you have to be aware of the other sides of the cube, because all this self-help stuff that's out there these days and all these seminars teaching you have to be positive. It's not enough to be positive. You have to also be aware that your environment, your atmosphere can influence you. Money can influence you, your tuition, what you eat. There's a number of factors there. The information you're getting, the papers that you read, the websites that you look at. All these things can influence you and actually stop you from achieving your goals. So it's really, really important to be aware of the cube so that then you know where you need to act in order to take action and be positive and really embrace who you are, who you were designed to become, and then actually become that person. So today we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject, which are cryptocurrencies. A lot of talk about cryptocurrencies in the press today, and a lot of negative talk, a little bit of positive talk, but like everything, you have to get your information from the right sources. So today what I decided to do is I researched the market of cryptocurrencies for my own education and to gather my own information to figure out what this is all about and where this is actually going, if it is going anywhere. I tapped in to an expert from Toronto in Canada. We're going to be talking today to Jen Decter, who's actually going to be in Barbados, as I interviewed her the other day, and she's going to share with us her insights. She's a graduate of Harvard Business School, very smart young lady. And she's going to be telling us a bit about her journey, how she got into the cryptocurrency world, the research she's done, the people she's talking to, the information she's gathered, where she's putting her money. She's going to be sharing with us the two cryptocurrencies where she's putting her money and why. And then we're also going to be talking about crypto mining. Yes, mining the actual currencies and how to go about it and what the secrets are to crypto mining. So these are some of the things that Jen's going to be sharing with us today. So I say that's all from me right now. Let's jump straight into this interview and get straight in and see what Jen can share with us and bring us into this fascinating world of cryptocurrency. Okay, hi Jen. Thank you for being on the show. And so let's start with your outline of your life and tell us a bit about your upbringing and situations in your life that really were learning moments that really took you onto the path you're on today.
Okay, yeah, so great to be here. I was a portfolio manager for about 9 years on Bay Street, which is kind of the Canadian equivalent to Wall Street. And I was a portfolio manager in the small cap equity space. So I spent my days basically meeting with management teams, and they were trying to basically get me to invest in their companies. And so in that world where it's small cap, it's volatile, it's risky, I got to, invest, and I call it placing bets on investments at a very young age. So I got to make a lot of mistakes early on when it didn't matter in financial terms, but it was great learning for me. And so I got to understand kind of what makes an equity a good equity, what makes a management team a good management team. And through that, so I managed a fund for 7 years. For 3 of those years, I had the number one fund in Canada. So I returned 13% compounded net of fees a year annually to investors. So it was a great learning experience. I then went on to raise quite a bit of capital for this firm. So I learned how to manage money, raise capital, and then I started an advisory firm about 2 years ago. And so I was doing advisory work, so helping small cap companies meet investors, capital introduction, marketing, that kind of thing. And about 8 months ago, which would be late in the sort of crypto and blockchain space for the sector itself, but for Bay Street, it was very new. No one was talking about this. A friend of mine called me and said, I'm starting a blockchain company. I'm raising $20 million privately. Are you in? And I said, yeah, of course. Like, I'm going to support you, but call me in 3 months when you have the capital. And the guy called me back a week later and said, I've got it all here. And
that was quick. That was quick.
Yeah, it was quick. And I said to myself, holy shit, like, I need to pay attention. There's something going on here. And raising money that quickly privately for a startup on Bay Street is like kind of unheard of. So I started digging and learning and locking myself in, my office and listening to YouTube and reading books and that. And I went down the rabbit hole, how you go down these things. And I was hooked. I was hooked. And what I ended up doing was taking all my network and my contacts and looking through and figuring out what deals were being capitalized privately and publicly across Canada, who was doing them, why they were doing them, what was behind it. And I ended up creating a conference circuit, which I took across Canada, 3 cities, 5 weeks, 1,500 finance professionals, 30 companies. And it inadvertently created a deal flow funnel for myself, not only for new clients, but for investments. And that's how I got involved.
So how did these clients look at, because there's a lot of skepticism towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, especially now after, Christmas, the Bitcoin has gone under almost $8,000 now as we speak. And the guy that was the famous guy in the film Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, is talking about Bitcoin, saying, oh, it's a scam, it's not going to go anywhere, it's going to go down to zero and whatnot. So you're taking all these investor people and exposing them to the crypto world. What's been the reaction there with these people? Have they been open or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very polarizing sector. So investors have, been skeptical because they can't use traditional valuation methods to understand the value, just like we couldn't do that 20 years ago with the internet.
Yeah.
So a lot of skepticism. I think Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan didn't do anybody any favors by separating the two concepts of, Bitcoin bad, blockchain good. Because in fact, they are intrinsically tied. I mean, to run a blockchain and a ledger, you need a reward. Like, no one's going to do that for free. And so that's where the coin comes in. But of course, you can have private ledgers, which don't need coins. But so I think, what's great about it, it's been a humbling experience for a lot of very smart people because they're going, I don't get it. But they're saying that out loud because they want to learn. And so part of my role, as I see it, is introducing these traditional portfolio managers to, hey guys, there's like a whole world going on over here where there are, thousands of coins out there. And yes, there's a long tail of crap and it's very similar to looking at the venture exchange in Toronto. Like there's tons of horrible companies that shouldn't be public, that don't have anything, and they're never going to make you money. But you know what? There's part of that tail that is going to, and it's worthwhile listening to. And simply put, like this is the analogy I use. So if Bitcoin is like an exchange of value, and it's like it's dumb money, like all it does is it changes a dollar from you to me effectively and quickly and without a middleman. Ethereum, which is like it's the smartphone. It's the Apple iPhone. It's got a platform. You can build applications on top of it and smart contracts, and that has validity, and that is going to change a number of industries. And that's where I think the portfolio managers are catching on and going, wait a second, I can program something, like I can program an equity. I can like an equity that can pay out dividends. It can do all my KYC, my back office, like all this stuff. Like it's really interesting if you really dig down.
Yeah. So what trends do you see now in the crypto market? I mean, now we've seen this fall of the value of Bitcoin, and all the other currencies have gone down almost 50% over the last few weeks. Is this just one of these things that's happening now? It's all going to go back up again. What trends do you see in the next few months?
I mean, I look at it from multiple angles. So technically, I have a chartered market technician, so I look at the charts. And so for me, like these things got overvalued in December. And it's natural for a check back. It's healthy. And, it's shaking out the weak money and allowing room for the big guys that want to come in. And the infrastructure on-ramps are now being created for institutions, pension funds, all that, to allocate a certain percentage of their portfolio to this asset class. And so I think it's going to be volatile for the next 6 months. I don't think we're going back to the highs like anytime soon. I think we're going to trade in sort of a consolidation phase here. Psychologically, I think that, like I said before, a lot of PMs are getting educated on this space. They're willing to invest capital. On Bay Street alone, there's been, two of my clients have raised close to $500 million in the last month. Wow. And are going public on the TSX venture. One of them is Digital Galaxy. Well, they're not my client, but they bought a company I was working for. So they're about to go public on the TSXV, $350 million go public transaction. And then Hut 8 Mining, which is a miner, is going public as well. And that's a client of mine. So,
So which cryptocurrencies do you think people need to keep their eye on, and which ones would you recommend investing in, and why? Now, we hear that it's important to look at the team behind the cryptocurrency and the utility of that particular cryptocurrency. So which ones do you see are the rising stars?
So I would say two things. One, if you want to get into the space, pay attention to coin market cap. So that's where everybody goes to look at the top 1,000 coins in the world, or 1,500 coins. So you can't get on coin market cap until you have a certain amount of trading volume and sort of credibility in the space. So I would say that's number one. So there's a lot of information on there. Number two, I will only recommend things that I'm personally putting my capital in. So there are two right now. So one of them is called Polymath, and they're actually my partner, Great Capital's partner, on a big conference we're hosting down in Bahamas in a few weeks. So Polymath is essentially building on the Ethereum platform what is going to allow traditional asset classes like equities, bonds, companies, whatever, to raise capital through what is called a security token. So not a utility token, but what is called an STO, securities token offering. And they are doing that where they're building in the KYCs, know your client, into the token so that the companies know that they are raising capital from the right people and they're staying on the right side of the law. And I really believe that that's the future of capital raising. It might not happen overnight, but it's essentially, they're building like the Goldman Sachs of the coin world, if you will. And so that's one. They just made it on CoinMarketCap actually last night. So you can check them out. They're trading on one or two exchanges, I think, at the moment.
What's their ticker?
It's Poli, P-O-L-Y.
Okay, P-O-L-Y. Okay. Yeah.
So that's one. And then two, I'm actually wearing the hat right now, T0.
Okay, T0, yeah.
T0. So this is Patrick Byrne from Overstock.com. He's got one of the biggest blockchains.
Oh, isn't he the guy in Utah?
Pardon?
Are they based in Utah?
Oh, you met him in Utah?
No, they're based in Utah, aren't they?
Oh, okay, yeah. So T0 is financed by a subsidiary of theirs called Medici Ventures.
Okay.
So this T0, they're doing a friends and family round right now, and then they're going to be doing a pre-ICO and then an ICO, and I think they're looking to raise about $250 million total. Okay. And I'm personally putting my own capital in it. They're building what is going to be the NASDAQ of the coin world. So if Polymath is building the platform for companies to build tokens in regulatory way. The T0 is building the platform for those coins to trade, just like they would on NASDAQ. Yeah. So those two pieces together will be really important to Bay Street and Wall Street and for companies in the future. They're going to create a whole lot of value, and they're going to be the place to be. So I'm placing my capital behind those two companies.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, there's a strong utility for both of these companies that you just mentioned. So, I mean, it's very, very clever. Now, what's your view on crypto mining? There's some people now investing in mining machines, or people setting up companies, buying a big warehouse and sticking 100 machines in there to mine the cryptocurrencies. What's your view on that as an investment these days?
Yeah, so I think, gone are the days where you can buy a couple machines and you crank out some coins in your basement. This has been now replaced and industrialized by huge operations. So in Toronto, there's a company called Hive that partnered up with a private company called Genesis that is based in Iceland. And they're one of the biggest miners of Ethereum in Europe. And so, it's gone to a scale where little mom and pop shops can't compete. And now there's a lot of mining companies being set up and a lot of capital being thrown at these things. And my concern is, and like this is, maybe a couple years out, but the replacement cycles on those chips that they need to mine the coins is getting shorter and shorter, and the capital costs are getting more and more and more expensive. Yeah. And so you need to be big to scale, to compete, to keep going, basically. Like it's a competition of the guy with the most money in his pocket. Or the girl. And so what's going to either happen to these smaller miners is they're going to go belly up, they're going to just go broke, or they're going to get bought. And I think
so you're saying the bigger companies, the machines are cheaper. So it's cheaper to buy a machine from these people in Iceland, for example.
Yeah, so when you have scale, you can buy more machines. You can place bigger orders, so you get preference. You get cheap rates. You can buy in bulk. And you can get the best chips in the world because you need to get access to the fastest ASICs chips if you're mining Ethereum.
Yeah, you want to mine as many possible in an hour. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you've got an advantage. You've got an information advantage, and you've got a cost advantage, and you've got a scale advantage. So, and you know what? There's different methods that are coming out. So mining proof of stake is a new thing that's coming out, whereby basically these pools of people that own a lot of coins are getting together, and they can actually make a decision based on, in the community, how much coins they own. So that's not as energy intensive as like the mining stuff, which is proof of work. And so I think there's going to be this change that's going to happen here. I don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah. What about the hash graph? Do you think people are going to start creating coins using hash graph instead of blockchain, or is that something that's still away in the future?
You know what? I haven't read a lot about that, so I couldn't answer that intelligently. But tell me about it. I haven't really read much.
Well,
about
I mean, they're saying it with the hash graph, they'll be able to move at about 1,000 times quicker than the blockchain.
Yeah, because I think the Bitcoin now is doing 3 transactions per second or something, and it's I kind of tell people it's like, look, we have a Kia vehicle and we're trying to get to a Ferrari, and in the meantime we're going to get some Ford vehicles in there too, and so the system and the mechanisms to speed up, it's no different than when you and I had a dial-up modem, right? Like you used to dial up to get information on the internet. It's probably faster to go down to your local library, but like look how far we've come. I'm sure technology is going to solve these issues, and developers and the minds are there and the capital's there, so I think it's going to get solved.
Yeah, and I also think with 2 billion people in the world in these developing countries, and as I just in my recent book that I've just written, will be published in a few months' time, called The Need for Speed, I talk about these 2 billion people coming online because they're moving from the countryside into a city. The first thing you acquire when you move into the city is a smartphone. And a lot of these people, I mean, take Pakistan, there's 200 million people living in Pakistan, and only, I think it's 20 million have a bank account. But most people have a cell phone. So, with a cell phone, you can use cryptocurrency to buy stuff. I mean, in Kenya right now, they're using cryptocurrency. In other countries where there's been problems like Zimbabwe, Venezuela, they're starting to use cryptocurrency. So it looks like the developing world is going to probably catch on to the whole cryptocurrency thing a bit quicker than Europe and the US. I mean, I know Canada's very much a pioneer in the cryptocurrency world, more than the US, and you are really pioneering things in the crypto world compared to anywhere else in the world. But I do see probably stuff happening in these developing countries as well. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really exciting, and it's a really interesting point. Like a lot of these sort of, world solutions to poverty and third world issues, haven't really come to fruition, but the cryptocurrencies are a real use case and example of how it actually in real time is happening. Like I was talking to my father over the weekend. He's a big proponent of Kiva. So Kiva does like micro loans to third world country entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And so like literally make these $25 loans in fiat currency. Yeah. And to somebody who's living in like Kenya, for example, who's trying to sell shoes on the side of the road or whatever.
Yeah.
But you loan these entrepreneurs money and they pay it back, and it's charity. But, it's increased the velocity of the economy over there, and it's raised a lot of people out of poverty. I think the very same way that using a smartphone to move money around, whether it's through remittance payments or even loans to people in these countries, like the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the upside is so high because you're starting from such a low base. Like these people don't have any money, right? Yeah. And so I think that's a really interesting point. To add to that, I met a very famous Peruvian economist. His name is Satori, I believe. I just met him 2 weeks ago at a conference, and he was the guy who basically created property laws in Peru and raised a lot of people out of poverty through property rights, because obviously if you own a property, you can leverage that and get loans, and it's helped a lot of people in South America. And he's now moving to the blockchain and trying to bring this same concept and property rights to third world countries. And he's somebody to follow. I think it's going to do a lot of good.
Okay, so do you think then, in closing, then, that the whole cryptocurrency thing is slowly or maybe even very quickly going to substitute fiat currency?
I think that's going to be a bumpy ride. I mean, there's a lot at stake here. Central banks, their taxation system, even like all the way through to military and the implications there. Yeah. I'm here in Barbados, and Barbados Central Bank has been very proactive and trailblazing. They've actually created, with a company that I'm friends with, BITT, a cryptocurrency for the central bank here. So they actually have their own cryptocurrency, and they're using it in the country. So, I think there are some governments that are going to be proactive, and then there's going to be others like China and India this week that are going to say, hey, look, we're banning this stuff. But, the way I say it to people, it's like catching water with your hands. Like, how are you going to stop it? It's just going to keep moving. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Jen, thank you so much for your time. And so if somebody wants to contact you in that, I'll post the links below. And so they can contact you on Grit Capital and also have a look at the different conferences you're organising and maybe come and join you at the conferences. So we'll post all those links below. And thank you so much for your time, and speak to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.